Well, my name is Richard LeBoeuf. I'm here with Chris Walter. We're from WW Technology Group, and I will just show you some snippet of what we can do with EDICT, but it's just the tip of the iceberg when I get to the demo. So I'll talk about the company briefly, then the tool suite, then show you a demo, and that will help me keep on time because it's a video, so it's already recorded. So the company was established in '94. It's basically a world-class model-based engineering tool and design and analysis consulting service company. And one of our claim to fame is this leading edge fault-tolerant architecture and model-based engineering technologies, which is installed in the Virginia-class ship control system. And we'll go into the Ohio class, or now I think it's called Columbia-class upgrade for the X-by-wire fault-tolerant architecture. We can speak with you more about that out in the expo. So the EDICT tool suite evolved out of the systems engineering work that was being done at the company, and it's an extensible MBSE tool. It has, supports modeling, it supports AADL, has various analysis that it supports, and it integrates standards like AADL, ARINC 653. The platform is Eclipse, and it's integrated with OSATE, so it integrates OSATE. The demonstration that I will show is a demonstration that you saw a snippet of earlier. What I'll do is round trip AADL through the tool. So I'll import the AADL that I downloaded from GitHub from this book, and we'll do some analysis, some basic changes to the model, and then export it back out as AADL. So with that, we need to.
You want your video?
Yep, I need to exit this and
yes.
I'll let you get me started here.
This one. There it is.
There we go.
For it will, yeah. Just this
All right. So put on your seatbelt. This is going to go fast. So first I'll take those models that I downloaded, or those AADL files, and instantiate them. Well, I'll import them later, instantiate them. So I'm importing, just browsing for the files that I downloaded from GitHub here. And selected those. I'm going to finish. And now we have all that code that I just downloaded, and it includes two design options. I'm going to use one of those design options for this example, but EDICT supports multiple design options. So there are various property definitions here and those design options. I didn't expect you to read all of that, just to see that the code is imported. And now we'll add a project to EDICT. EDICT will support multiple projects at the same time, multiple design options. So I'm just calling it self-driving car, defining the project. I will select translate from AADL because it supports doing manual modeling as well, not just importing from AADL. So here I'm choosing what I'm going to instantiate. I'm picking the two design variations. I mentioned two design options. They're called variations there. And now finishing. So I will have a system, view the system model in EDICT. So we do that over here. I just selected system architecture. So this is what it looked like, just raw, pulling it in from the files. The system architecture, you can see there are some properties, data specifications that are missing. And so I'll be adding some data specifications to support analysis. But that's the whole set of models. So it has the CPUs and buses up at the top and various components down below. So you imagine a self-driving car would have obstacle sensors, things like that. So system flow aspect, that's to capture the properties, captures the flows which were already defined in the model that I imported. So I haven't defined anything here. I'll define another one later when I modify the system and add wiper control. So here, sorry, I said this earlier. Here I'm adding the system performance aspect, which is all the various properties. So I'm going to set a scheduled protocol, and there'll be a list that comes up here. I could select multiple protocols, and the analysis would apply to each one of those protocols. I only selected one, though. So I'm just adding earliest deadline first. But to do the analysis, as I mentioned before, there are some properties missing. So you can see verification failed because a lot of properties weren't there. So the ones in blue in this table were included and the ones in yellow were not. So I just added values, frankly, taken out of my head. And you can see the CPU is overallocated for CPU 1. It has 2 CPUs in that model. But I went ahead and just put those numbers in and do the analysis with those numbers. And I'm going to kind of blur this out and kind of skip over adding the rest of the parameters and just jump to here, so analyzing schedulability. And we should see the same, we will see the same numbers that you saw in the spreadsheet, that one of these processors is over-allocated. So that was CPU 2, CPU 1 is, the reason it has a red X there is because it's over-allocated. So we'll come back and just change one of these numbers to force it to not be over-allocated. So we'll change that 137 to 97%. Still doesn't have a lot of margin, but at least when I rerun the analysis now it's checked, so it used that information. The next piece is analyze flow delays. And so here I needed some extra properties for the components also. So again, I just blurred that out. I added a bunch of properties for timing and calculated the best case and worst case delay for those 2 flows that were identified before. Now I'm going to export it to EDICT to a format that we use so that I can make the EDICT model the single source of truth, because this model is read-only, and it's read-only because the single source of truth is AADL, not EDICT. So here I'm going to import it as another design option into EDICT. So now I've got something that I can actually edit once I pull that model in to that design option. So I just took a duplicate, I cloned it into another option, but you can see that one is not read-only. So now what I was going to do is add a wiper control. There were other controls for instance, obstacle detection and avoidance. I'm just going to go down into this lower right corner and add a device, add some components just for rain sensor wiper with a controller in between, a process in between. And that thread will then be bound to a CPU, one of the CPUs that already exists, namely CPU 2. So now I'll add that flow. We saw a couple flows under the flow before. I'm going to add a flow that goes from, basically it traverses this piece, that particular piece of the system model. So rain sensor to wiper. So I'm just adding that flow here. And I need to add those performance aspects now for those new components. So I'm going ahead and adding those. Different performance aspect that has the other data as well. So that was timing properties for those 3 components. And then I make a new analyzer that includes that new information, and it includes the 3rd flow. Same for the flow delay. And finally, just export those models to AADL, and that will conclude the demonstration part of my presentation. So we go back to the perspective for AADL, and indeed we have the models there, the AADL. So let's see. Oh, you want it? Not the master here.
No, I'm not the master. The 2 of us have a PhD in computer science, so that works.
Yes, that was the demonstration. So let me move on to the next slide. So I have 2 summary slides, and then I will be finished. EDICT AADL supports summary. So we have OSATE integration. We have full standard compliance with the AADL core and behavior annex. The import of the AADL, textual editing. I could have edited. I don't think I showed that in this demo, but we could have edited that just as well in EDICT. and then graphical editing, which I did show, and exporting AADL. And, you know, again, that's the part that I showed in the demo. But there's much more to EDICT that we can discuss later on. So I'd be happy to have you come over and talk to Chris and I. But basically, our benefits summary is it's an efficient tool. It's easy to learn, multi-platform deployment, version control for team collaboration. It helps you support your quality efforts, so requirements traceability, safety, dependability, security, information assurance, data and error propagation analysis. Obviously, I couldn't show that in 12 minutes, but extensibility, so there's third-party tool integration via Eclipse. And that's my talk.
Thank you.
So again, thank you.
Thank you. So, please, Brian.